Okay, and we are back for another episode of UFC Main Event Breakdown, getting it in really late, right at the buzzer. So let's pick up where we left off and go for another win. We are coming off of the Lewis versus Nascimento fight, where I predicted Lewis by a second or third round knockout, and Lewis came through. So let's see if we can keep with this momentum and predict Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy. Let's start off with their records. Edson Barboza is 38 years old, 5'11", 75-inch reach. Let's actually go off with centimeters. 181 centimeters tall, 191 centimeters in reach. So he has long arms. Compared to Lerone Murphy, who's 32, he is 175. So he's 6 centimeters shorter. And he has 187 centimeters in reach. So he has 4 centimeters less in reach. So shorter and less reach, that makes sense. Edson Barboza fought at 155 and he cut down to 145. Lerone Murphy is more of a natural featherweight fighter. Notable age difference here, 32 years old for Lerone Murphy, while Edson Barboza is 38 years old. So I'm not going to break down all of Edson Barboza's fights in extreme detail, but let's just go over how many freaking UFC fights he has. Comes in 2010 when he is 6-0. Leg kick TKO's Mike Lulo. Then Anthony Njokuani, who is actually the brother of Chidi Njokuani, I'm pretty sure. Then Ross Pearson, Terry Edom with the highlight for the ages. Jamie Varner loses to Lucas Martins, wins. Rafaelo Oliveira beats him. Danny Castillo loses to Donald Cerrone, beats Evan Dunham, beats Bobby Green, loses to Michael Johnson, beats Paul Felder, loses to Tony Ferguson. That was a good fight. Beats Anthony Pettis, beats Gilbert Melendez, beats Beneil Dariush, loses to Khabib, loses to Kevin Lee, beats Dan Hooker, loses to Justin Gaethje, loses to Paul Felder, loses to Dan Ige. People were thinking, is Edson Barboza done? The pandemic happens. He comes and fights against Makwan Amirkhani, I believe, in Fight Island. Beats him by decision. Makwan was trying to go for takedowns. Beats him. Then he fights Shane Burgos. Beats him up in round 2. Beats him up in round 1. Round 2, he kind of starts to take his foot off the gas. Shane Burgos is kind of surging back. Then in round 3, he puts him down with a beautiful 1-2 combination. Loses to Giga Chikadze, gets TKO'd in round 3. Loses to Bryce Mitchell by getting wrestled. Then he comes back, knocks out Billy Quarantillo in round 1 with a knee, and then beats Sadiq Youssef by decision. This guy is a UFC legend, and I don't think anyone is more deserving of the term than Edson Barboza. At 38 years old, can he push back the clock and defeat another contender, basically being the gatekeeper at the featherweight division? This would be his third kind of up-and-comer that he beats in a row. Billy Quarantillo, Sadiq Youssef, and now Lerone Murphy. So, with that stage set, let's go through Lerone Murphy's record. So Lerone Murphy actually has a pretty good amount of UFC fights. He beats Ricardo Ramos, TKOing him in round 1. Then he beats Douglas Silva de Andrade, beating him by decision. Then in Fight Island, he knocks out Makwan Amirkhani in round 2 of their fight. Basically, he just gets taken down and wrestled by Makwan in the first round. Then he comes back and knees him in the face, perfectly timing a takedown that Makwan was trying to do on him. And he basically level changes right into the knee, something that Edson Barboza just did in his last fight out. Then he fights Gabriel Santos, not Dos Santos. I actually thought Lerone Murphy lost this fight, but he wins by split decision. Pretty close fight, lots of wrestling, lots of scrambling. Then he fights Josh Kulabau and beats him by 30-27. Some of the judges gave him 30-26 because they thought round 3 was a 10-8 round. But good striking, good scrambling in that fight. And in round 3, Lerone Murphy lands a front kick right on Josh Kulabau's liver. Kulabau just drops to the ground, and Murphy basically is on top of him, landing ground and pound. So, what do these fighters do well? What are their weaknesses? Let's get into that. Lerone Murphy is just a pretty good all-around fighter. He is good at mixing in his wrestling with his striking. He will definitely engage in the clinch with his opponents and go for takedowns. He does that when he has his opponents hurt and also when he is hurt. So that's just a tool kind of, it feels to me when I'm watching him fight, it feels like that's a natural progression that he trains in. Like punch, punch, takedown. That's something that he just trains in the gym. And so he kind of will do that regardless of how the fight's going, and he'll just do it when he has his opponents hurt and also when he's hurt. That's just kind of something that comes natural to him. And that's great because it works well against grapplers. It works well against guys that are going to want to take him down because he has that wrestling built into him. And it works good against strikers because he is able to mix it up on them, make them think about his takedowns. The downside of that strategy is that he's not really a specialist in any one particular category. He has good striking, he has good grappling, and combined, those together are usually enough to beat these unranked guys that he's been put up against. The guys such as Josh Kulabau, Makwan Amirkhani, Gabriel Santos, all of these unranked guys that Lerone Murphy is fighting. And he, because of his good mix of striking and grappling, he's able to kind of overwhelm a lot of these guys. He beats them on the feet, goes in for a takedown. We'll try to beat him on the ground. We'll go back to the feet. And that's a good recipe also, not only in terms of just beating them, but it looks good in the judge's eyes. Let's talk about what Edson Barboza does well. Obviously, he has great kicks. That's his main thing. He has a TKO win by leg kicking his opponent. He has a win by body kicking his opponents, and he has a win by head kicking his opponents. So he's got the trifecta of kicking knockouts. He is a great kicker. How has his style changed as he's gotten older? Well, his output has definitely dropped, but I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's being way more selective in his shots, which has helped him not only pace himself better, but it's allowed him to be a more complete mixed martial artist, in my opinion. He's able to see takedowns coming. He's able to react to them. He does a great job of targeting on his strikes. He will throw to the head. He'll throw to the body. He'll throw to the legs. He'll make his opponents hurt everywhere. The body shots are his main thing. That was a huge weapon in his last fight against Sadiq Youssef, where he just kept chipping away at Sadiq's body, and that really tired Sadiq out, and ultimately Barboza was able to come back and win the rounds 2, 3, and 4, and 5 after getting 10-8 in round 1. So that body works great. He'll also throw kicks to the body, wheel kicks to the body, front kicks to the body. He has a really nice overhand right that he can also turn into a right straight. That right straight is blisteringly fast. That's what knocked out Shane Burgos in round 3. One of the craziest knockouts you'll ever see because it was so delayed. He just whips it out there, cracks his opponents, and it's almost like they don't even realize they've been hit. So let's see, what did I cover? Barboza has the leg kicks, he has the body shots, both with his kicks and his hands. He has insane spinning back kicks, and his speed is still there. I would say that his output has dropped, but his speed has maintained, even through his aging and dropping in weight. Edson Barboza has a great clinch. He will allow his opponents to clinch up with him, and he'll clinch with his opponents when he's hurt. Barboza will land good punches to the body in the clinch. He'll just work that body, and he'll throw really good knees. And Edson Barboza's takedown defense is really good, especially against these guys that are lower in these featherweight rankings. Obviously, he got out-wrestled by Bryce Mitchell, but all of these guys have wanted to out-wrestle him. Makwan Amirkhani is a pretty good wrestler. Billy Quarantillo, decent wrestler. Sadiq Youssef's a good wrestler. All of these guys wanted to try to out-wrestle him, only Bryce Mitchell was able to. What is Barboza's weakness? Well, Barboza, he actually does have a pretty good chin, but he doesn't react well when he's hit. When he gets hit, he kind of like takes a deep breath, takes a second to reset, and he allows the strike to impact him. He gets hit with jabs a lot, and he does not have the greatest of defense, although he still does have pretty good head movement and can roll with a lot of punches. That's been something that I've been noticing in his later fights. Compared to Lerone Murphy's weaknesses, what are his weaknesses? Well, he gets leg kicked a lot. He likes to brawl with his opponents because he thinks he can land the bigger punches. He doesn't have the biggest power, and he doesn't move his head a lot. So brawling is not going to be in his best interest, especially as he fights higher and higher competition. The other thing that is a drawback with Murphy's game plan is that he is not the fastest of fighters, and he even gets slower as he gets more tired throughout the fights. And because he's not really a specialist in any one area, Murphy will get tired. He doesn't have an extreme comfort in the striking nor the grappling. And so just kind of like mixing that up will tire him out through what I would say is like an average paced fight. He will get tired by the end of it. And Murphy has been impacted by a few strikes. And notably, he got dropped by Gabriel Santos. He didn't get dropped by Josh Kulabau, but he did get rocked by him. He does not have the best chin or durability in the world, nor does he have great leg kick defense, which kind of brings me into the next section. How are these two fighters going to match up with each other? So Lerone Murphy and Edson Barboza, they are both pretty good strikers. I would say they actually have a similar level of grappling. I think Lerone Murphy is more willing to offensively engage in the grappling than Edson Barboza is. But I don't think Lerone Murphy's grappling is going to be good enough to, A, take down Edson Barboza, and even if he does take Edson Barboza down, I don't think it's going to be good enough to finish him on the ground or even just hold him there for the entire round. Edson Barboza has been pretty much throughout his entire career been working on his anti-grappling, and I think that he's gotten it to a level where he can kind of just resist Lerone Murphy's striking here. I don't think Edson Barboza is going to engage in the grappling. I think Lerone Murphy is going to engage in the grappling, and when he engages in the grappling, i.e. goes into the clinch, he's going to find Edson's knees, he's going to find Edson's body shots, and he's going to find Edson kind of just doing good anti-grappling, landing shots in the clinch, and then breaking away from the clinch. That's going to leave it to be mostly a striking affair after kind of this grappling he finds isn't going to work, and we're going to have Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy in the striking. Who's going to win that? I think Edson Barboza wins that pretty much hands down. Lerone Murphy doesn't have the greatest power in the featherweight division. He does have a knockout over Ricardo Ramos. I would say Ramos was probably cutting too much weight. I know that he moved up in weight. Other than that, he's hit some of his opponents with really good shots. He hit Santos with a good shot. He hit Kulabau with a good shot. Obviously, he hit Makwan Amirkhani with a good shot. But Edson Barboza is not going to be level changing into Lerone Murphy's knee. So, and he didn't really hurt those guys at all. Kulabau and Santos, I don't know if their chins are rock solid, but Murphy doesn't seem to have the power that Barboza's used to. Barboza has fought pretty much the who's who at the lightweight division, never really got knocked out there. He fought Giga Chikadze, and Chikadze hurt him, but Barboza, he did a pretty good job surviving until he did eventually get TKO'd by Chikadze. But Chikadze definitely hits harder than Lerone Murphy. He's definitely faster than Lerone Murphy. And I'd also say he has a more skilled and diverse stand-up game than Lerone Murphy does. Murphy's best power shot is kind of that right hand. And if he's going to be trading 1-2s with Edson Barboza, I'm going to pick Edson Barboza pretty much like 9 times out of 10 to beat Lerone Murphy in that striking exchange. So I don't think Murphy has the power to knock out Barboza. I don't even think he really has the cardio to outlast Barboza in this fight. Barboza put on a stellar performance against Sadiq Youssef where he went the entire 25 minutes. Lerone Murphy's never gone 25 minutes in the UFC. And you have to remember that Edson's going to be slamming body kicks, slamming left and right hooks into Lerone Murphy's body the entire time. tiring him down even further, and Murphy gets tired just kind of at his A speed. Kind of when he's doing his A game plan of striking and then mixing in the grappling, he gets tired out in a 3-round fight. So Edson Barboza, I think, is going to outlast Lerone Murphy. I think Edson has a better chin than Lerone Murphy, which is crazy because he's older than him, and you would think that he's cutting more weight than him. But I think it's true. Murphy hasn't displayed the best chin, and especially in this fight, I think there's a big power differential. So that being said, what is going to be my official prediction? Well, I'm picking Edson Barboza, and I'm debating whether he's going to finish Murphy or beat him by decision. And I'm leaning more towards a finish. I think it might be I don't think it's going to be a super late knockout, because I think if it gets into rounds 4 and 5, Edson's kind of just going to go into second gear and just kind of ride out the fight, winning the 4th and the 5th round, not really hunting for a finish. But I think there's a pretty live chance of Edson Barboza figuring out Lerone Murphy in round 1. And then from there, while he's still fresh, while he still has all of that pep in his step, which he doesn't really lose as the fight goes on, but he does get more conscious of conserving his energy the later the fight goes on with Barboza. I think there's a pretty high chance that Edson Barboza finds the knockout in round 2 and 3. Once he's in that sweet spot of having Lerone Murphy figured out, and he still has the energy to kind of hunt for that finish. So that's going to be my official prediction. I will say a round 3 knockout for Edson Barboza. And I haven't actually looked at the odds yet this fight. I would imagine it's a pretty close fight because you have a veteran coming off of a 2-fight win streak, and he's fighting against an up-and-coming yet unproven guy. So let's take a look at the odds. Yeah, Lerone Murphy at minus 157 and Edson Barboza at plus 128. So when I was first coming into this fight trying to break it down, I'm like, Edson Barboza, he's so old. Lerone Murphy's looked good as of late. He'll probably just steamroll him. But then when I was doing tape study and looking at their records, I'm like, wait a second, Lerone Murphy really hasn't beaten anyone good. His best win is probably Josh Kulabau. Edson Barboza has beaten some of the best guys at lightweight, or at least fought against them for sure. And fought against the upper echelon of the featherweight division. I mean, say what you want about Giga Chikadze and Bryce Mitchell, but they are head and shoulders above Josh Kulabau and Gabriel Santos. That being said, I don't think that Lerone Murphy, who struggled against those guys, has the skills, the cardio, the chin, and just the durability and toughness required to kind of survive an early onslaught from Edson Barboza and try to finish him. And I know what you're going to say. Edson Barboza got wobbled by Sadiq Yusuff, and Sadiq Yusuff's not that good. Yeah, he got wobbled. Once he was on the ground, he was able to just survive pretty easily. Barboza has underrated jiu-jitsu, and Lerone Murphy has never really shown that kind of finishing ability that would exceed what Sadiq Yusuff put out there. Even Giga Chikadze had a hard time beating Edson Barboza. I think Lerone Murphy is going to find out that Barboza is way tougher than he's expecting. All right, well, let me know what you thought of my prediction, guys. Let me know your own prediction down in the comment section below. What is the odds for Barboza by knockout? Barboza by knockout or points? Let's see. Barboza by knockout. Plus 240. Well, I think that there are pretty good odds on Barboza here. I think that a lot of people are just looking at this and thinking that Barboza is older and Lerone Murphy's an undefeated fighter. He's going to come in. He's just going to kind of like gut out a good decision against Barboza or finish him, just showing off how physically imposing he is and how much younger he is and fresh, and he's a prospect for the featherweight division. And we're going to get, for the third time in a row, Edson Barboza kind of kicking someone out from trying to enter the featherweight rankings. And I don't know how far Edson's going to go, but I do think he's going to beat Lerone Murphy. So let's see if we can keep this momentum going and get another winner in Edson Barboza. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the fights.